This week, some new expansions for Smash Up and 5 Tribes. Plus, we've got a list of new Board Game Award nominees.
And our topic of the week, fan feedback. How can developers listen to their fans in order to improve their games? I'm Will Keeler.
I'm Jonathan Estes, and this is the Roll for Crit podcast.
Right off the heels of Smash Up's Pretty expansion, we've got word of Smash Up's new expansion, It's Your Fault. That's correct, you heard. It is your fault. The reason behind this is instead of telling you what groups they have, they're actually going to take suggestions for what groups to put in for this expansion. After May 11th, they're actually going to take whichever of the 32 most popular ones, put them in a little voting battle, and the top 4 are going to be able to choose which groups are actually in there. Therefore, if it's a bad expansion, it's your fault.
But if it's great, it's good for
right.
you.
Jonathan, you have your watch on you, right?
It's on me, yeah.
Yeah, all right. I want you to start counting up for 30 seconds. I want to see how many ideas I can shoot off. Well, actually, we'll go with 15, not to make this too long, right?
Yeah, 30 seconds is longer.
Yeah, I just realized. Yeah. All right, so.
All right, go ahead.
Cowboys, Samurai Knights, the Smash Up crew, developers, astronauts, what else? Dragons, fashionistas. That would be an interesting
one.
Your
15 seconds are up. Fashionistas. How about hipsters?
Oh, that's good.
Those are good. Those are good.
I was thinking, I didn't want to say Nazis.
Nazis.
Oh, the other one I thought of, I was thinking earlier, bounty hunters.
Huh.
Like they'd actually depend on what your opponent's discard is.
Interesting, like mercenaries.
Yeah, mercenary bounty hunters. Huh?
Yeah, you could have a whole historical themed one. You could have all like factions from different wars, the north and the south.
Oh my, civil. Oh wow.
I don't know. I love it.
You know what that expansion would have to be called though? The 10-foot pole expansion.
Yeah, we went there. I can't believe there's no dragons yet.
Well, dinosaurs. I can understand why there is.
I think they should have snakes, and then another one that's planes. Only because I had this shirt on. So.
I know everyone wants kaiju.
Huh, yeah.
That's a bit...
It should just be like 6 cards, and they're all just gigantic.
Well, no, that's the thing. That's what princess is. It's not half. Oh, there's only like 4, each one's unique princesses. So kaiju actually wouldn't be that big of a stretch. I mean, cowboys we've been saying forever.
That's our number 1. If you've seen our Smash Up episode of Playback, we definitely went over some of the ideas there. So
Samurai Knights... Yeah. Those are obviously their own groups. I think it'd be hilarious to have to do Smash Up developers. Sort of like the Geeky Box.
Just game developers in general.
That'd be hilarious.
Different publishing companies. How about Asmodee? It's all all taking over other people's minions.
I mean, well, that's the cats.
I know. Everything's been done already. You can't...
Yeah, I mean, we already know Munchkin expansion's coming out.
That's true.
So, I mean, would it be too far to say there's a Gloom one? I'm trying to think what other series of games there are.
Any Steve Jackson zombie dice? There's already zombies. Just dice. Anyway, there's a lot. There's a lot of.
So one submission, one idea per submission. We're definitely gonna have to go through our own and choose which one we're gonna submit.
We'll just make a bunch of email addresses and then submit them that way.
Oh, you know what? A whole set, Nintendo. Just the Mario group, then you have the Legend of Zelda group.
We've got ideas.
It's Smash Up. It's a Smash Brothers Smash Up crossover.
Stay tuned to the end of this episode to find out why they shouldn't listen to anything we're saying right now. But yeah, it sounds...
It's almost as if the topic of the week was because of this story.
It's a good idea, and it'll be fun to see what people come up with and what they decide on.
And it'd be fun that when your idea isn't one of the 32 and you're like, that's not fair, this one's completely stupid.
Yeah, it's going to be like, you're going to be like, really? They picked those? Those are terrible. Anyway,
we'll report on when those 32 are announced, and we will judge each one unfairly.
And we'll see if next year this expansion makes it onto any award lists, because that's our next subject of news today. This last week we had not 1 but 2 lists of award nominees released. One for the Dice Tower Awards and one for the Origin Gaming Awards, which are given out by the Academy of Game Arts and Sciences, I don't remember what it's called, that they give out every year at the Origins game convention. And we've talked about a lot of awards in the show before, and these are for 2014. So I don't feel like we need to go through a whole list again.
Every single one.
But it is kind of interesting to see. They actually were pretty different. Origins awards are much more, they've got best board game, best card game, best role-playing game, whereas Dice Tower is much more segmented. It's best theme, best party game, best two-player game, best designer game, best new designers game, and stuff like that. And they seemed like the ones on the list were actually, I thought, pretty different. Abyss and a few others were up for best origin that weren't on Dice Tower's list. But it's other than that, it's the usual suspects. Dead of Winter, Dice Masters was on there, Five Tribes, Splendor, the kind of things you would expect. But yeah, it's more awards. You can see the whole list. You can look them up. We're not going to get into it, but
I mean, we'll talk more when we get closer. I mean,
yeah.
There's so many that it's just not worth us just rattling through all of them because probably one game's on like 6 different lists.
Right, but it is interesting.
Yeah.
It is interesting to see whenever. I think
I was curious. You were talking about how what awards would be more like the Oscars. Like, how would you do it? Would you say it was more like Origins? Would you say it's more like the Dice Tower?
You mean in terms of the categories?
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I think Origin really only has like 6 or 7 categories. I think Dice Tower is much more
comprehensive,
interesting. Yeah, more. It covers more bases and it allows a lot more. They also have a lot more per category.
Oh, and the other thing
there's a lot of games
you thought was interesting. You didn't see Sheriff of Nottingham on any of Dice Towers.
Yeah, so I assume is because Sheriff is a Dice Tower essential that in the interest of being unbiased,
right?
They didn't put it on there.
But we do agree that definitely would be one that at least should be nominated.
Well, it was on Origin's list, right? And pretty much anyone else's list. Yeah, for at least something. It wasn't up for anything. So I'm assuming that must be the case.
Moving on, Coup, a very fun game that we all enjoyed trying to coup and kill each other with
all the time,
was released for free on Apple iOS. So mostly, I only saw phones. I don't know if it's
I think iPad as well.
iPad as well. Yeah. It's for free to play. You can play online. There's ranking systems. There's achievements. There's new artwork or the old artwork. There's also, of course, because if it's free, that must mean there are microtransactions, which have brought up a couple complaints.
Well, I think before even getting into the app itself, the question is, did we really want a digital version of Coup? We haven't been able to try it. We're Android Droidbeard green texters ourselves, but it just doesn't seem like a game like that. I feel like that game relies a lot on social interaction and reading people. Am I wrong?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Because obviously you might want to try to trick people or tell people, like, don't kill me, kill him, he's winning, right?
Yeah.
That costs money.
How so?
I think it's 99 cents to have...
And so you can, like, give out
messages
and things like that? Interesting. Yeah. It sounds like they didn't really go about this in the best way. Feedback has been pretty negative.
Yeah, I mean, we saw a lot of... And also... Apparently, Apple crashed because of ads that constantly keep popping up.
Right. Yeah. So. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe this will be a good example for future developers of what not to do. Again, we still haven't tried it. I don't, and probably won't. We'll have to get Neil because he has an iPhone to download.
Well, yeah, but his iPhone will explode.
His iPhone's from like 1982. It's just an Apple II computer. That's what he carries in his pocket. Yeah, but I don't know. We'll see if they revise it in any way. Maybe if they patch it down the line based on the feedback.
No, I definitely agree, though. I mean, technically every game relies on the personal and seeing the person, but Coup, I feel like, is one of those games that really...
much more than others.
Yeah. Like Ticket to Ride, I'm not looking at your face like, why is he trying to
right.
build?
Or like Star Realms is popular in digital.
Well,
one's really, you're not, it doesn't matter what they're, but Coup is all, if something's about deduction and social deduction like that.
Where it's like the main core. Yeah.
It's the Coup
core. Alas, we'll see what happens.
It is not to be. Another game that doesn't have a digital version is Five Tribes, which of course we mentioned earlier as being up for awards. Well, we've got some news of their new expansion coming out that, wouldn't you know it, adds tribe number 6, which is the Artisans. The title of the expansion is Five Tribes, Artisans of Nakala. And these Artisans are a brand new tribe. They're purple meeples. They come with new tiles where you can go to buy materials and then go to different tiles to then basically transform them and create potions and magical objects.
So alchemists.
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much alchemy, that kind of thing. Which sounds really cool to moi. Of course, we still have yet to play Five Tribes. I think we're the last two people in the country, maybe. But
we'll get to it eventually. It's just first one of us has to own it.
Yeah, there's a lot of hurdles to jump through there. But 6 tribes. Soon it's going to be 7. What's going on?
No. It's fine because you see, the base is 5 tribes.
Right. That's true.
They just keep the title because imagine if the expansion said 6 tribes, you get confused.
Eventually, they're gonna have to come out with a big box expansion that just says 10 tribes. They change the title. I don't know. It just seems dishonest to me.
I mean, we definitely want to try it out. And plus, with this, I know both. It sounds very cool to both of us.
Yeah.
So, for now,
people like it. Yeah. Well, for now,
I think it's time we transform this segment into our Kickstarter Pickstarters. My Kickstarter Pickstarter for this week comes from Silly Kid Games. The game is Golem Academy. In this game, you take the role of currently 4 champions. I believe they have a 5th one actually along the way. And the entire game pretty much takes all the anime tropes, puts them together, and it's your character plus a monster in which you're playing and fighting each other. And you can actually build up points that fuse together to make sort of like a hybrid chimera monster. Just like in the anime, Dragon Ball Z Fusion Dance, or Digimon. Anyways, the game looks a very interesting take because you want to build up not only your life counter, keep track of that, but also that fusion thing. Because obviously, if you can guess, you're stronger then. The artwork looks very nice, which I have to say is a bit odd usually, often with many anime Kickstarters I see.
It's a good, it's not, doesn't look just like a generic DeviantArt,
Well, more like it actually looks like it's not done colored pencil, in 2 seconds.
High praise.
No, but I mean, I do think that matters.
No.
If you're, especially.
Certainly.
But the game itself actually looks fun because they showed a lot of cards about comboing with attacks. Which, if you think about the classic, I know you watch a lot of DBZ at the least.
Hell yeah.
Anime, when you see them just punching each other so fast, it sort of has that sort of flow to it.
Now, how many episodes will one game last?
Well, there's this screaming round. It takes about an hour. But no, because it's actually back and forth. So there is I throw a kick, and then I defend, or I attack with this, and I attack with a double tornado or something.
Is it just one-on-one?
No, at least they showed a one-on-one, but I totally missed that, but I'm pretty sure it's multiplayer. And it looks a lot of fun. And each character is unique. One of them is the guy's with a puffer fish. So his whole thing is about poison. He poisons people, and then also spikes that damage him for attacking.
That's cool. Yeah.
There's a girl with a winged cat who's all about the wind. So it's a lot of those little attacks all of a sudden start building up and hitting. One guy's gravity, so he builds up gravity, so you're getting dragged down. And the other one's fire, so it just meant to just beat just constantly attack.
Okay.
So it looks really cool, fun.
I'd pay $49.99 for that game.
Did you just? Where are you getting that price from?
Yeah, that's when you say, "Well, you're in luck."
Oh well, I'm just why that? No, the game goes for $30 for the game itself, exclusive Kickstarter box. And I know, like I said earlier, they're apparently working on a fifth warrior to use. So, and I can easily see this making more, depending on how it goes. So it's definitely, it was an interesting take. Definitely fun if you're an anime fan to see all these tropes thrown together. Like I said, we mentioned Dragon Ball, but I can easily see Digimon, Buso Rankin, Naruto, whatever animes you like. Or at least any shoujin animes, not the.
I was trying to come up with some really serious dramatic anime.
I
couldn't.
But you can come up with your Kickstarter.
I can come up with my Kickstarter Pickstarter. This week, mine is called Era: Liars with a Y, like the instrument, and it is a role-playing game set in the world of Era. There have been previous games in this series from the same creator. It comes from Shades of Vengeance, the name of the company, awesome name. And what's cool about this RPG, it's a little different from a normal one, although it takes place in a fantasy world. It's a little of lower magic. Magic isn't super common or big monsters. And normally, whereas the DM will be, telling you the story and the adventurers are kind of react to it, in this game, the idea is you're in a tavern or what have you, and you're telling a story. You're basically making up a story of what happened to sound cool. and the DM actually plays the role of different people in the audience. And depending on how well you tell your own story, you can try to convince people that it really happened, or they'll be excited, or they might leave. And if everybody leaves, you fail the game. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. First of all, I just imagine when you said unlike, when you start out the difference, I literally imagine just all the stories like, I attacked this golem and just the DM's like, oh god, I attack a monster. Okay, it's a golem. just trying to imagine the reverse.
He's asking them, what is it?
But it definitely sounds cool, and it also made me think of the Red Dragon Inn. So like you're done with the adventuring, you're at the
kind of. Although obviously a role playing game,
right? Also, I feel like if you're playing this, you just each time you're like, I fought the dragon, it was this big. You gotta do the fish.
And what it'll be is like if someone in the audience will be like an expert on dragons, so you'll have to roll like your dragon skill versus his skill.
Well, you know he's an expert in dragons.
I'm not sure if it's known before. Like the DM knows.
It could be some. It could be both.
I think it basically will depend on like he'll say, oh, this guy has the best experience with that, so you have to try and convince him roll, and if you roll high enough, he stays released. And there's more to it. There are rules for combat and things, like stuff can happen. It's not just you.
Can you get in a bar fight?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. That's very important. Very important.
No, that's highly possible. And if you go on the Kickstarter page, there is a print and play for like a preliminary set, not the full rule book.
Right.
But you can try it out. But otherwise, it goes $15 for the digital version, $30 if you want the physical book.
And you said there are other books?
There are other ones, I think, more traditional, set in this same world from the same creator.
Okay.
So if you check out the Kickstarter, go to his website. I'm sure you'll find links to those too if you're interested. But those are our Kickstarters for the week, and now we will give you our topic of the week. At the top of the show, we mentioned the new Smash Up expansion, which is taking fan submissions and suggestions. So for our topic today, we're going to discuss what that means for the industry. When is it a good time to listen to the fans? How much should designers listen to fans? And how can it impact games for better or worse? We've seen some... This isn't the first time we've seen something like this.
Dominion. Not Dominion, I mean...
Cosmic Dominion.
Cosmic Dominion.
For the Cosmic Encounter game.
Which I think has been a huge success. It brought a lot of unique aliens, even though that set already has so many.
Yeah.
A lot of hilarious ones.
And also, there's also one for Cutthroat Caverns has an expansion with some fan-designed ones. So it's something that people have experimented with. And we can talk about even beyond like expansions, even to general... people on Board Game Geek talking about which rules they don't like, which rules they do like, and how if that may change editions going forward and things like that. What are the pros and the dangers? Certainly, this is something that before the internet wasn't a thing.
Right.
Never would have happened. So it's really in the last maybe 10 years or so that kind of thing was even possible.
All right, pros. If your game has something where you have a lot of expansion, for example, there's a lot of aliens you can add, smash up a lot of groups, a lot of different monsters, I guess, or encounters.
Creatures, factions.
For Cutthroat.
Right.
That's very good because usually you can get a lot of different ideas right off the bat.
Yeah.
Where it might not be so good might be, for example, Magic the Gathering. Let's say there was one set that didn't go so popular, but you keep hearing maybe a few fans saying we need to go back to that world or something, or the mechanic. You shouldn't listen to them then because it didn't do that well.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. Well, that's one issue of serving the niche versus what's actually going to sell, and then there's also the case of sometimes people wanting what they think they want, but not what they really want.
Right. Oh, by the way, that example about Magic I was talking about, I was that niche person. I'm that niche person. You should not listen to me there, as much as I want to go back to comic.
I was actually going to ask about Magic, because collectible card games seems like another one where there's a lot of... Well, that's a little... The thing with that, that's dangerous because it's hard enough to keep track of.
What you were talking about, what they think they want, that is definitely something Magic has to juggle very carefully. Because people may be like, I really want this to happen, but then that makes it a really game-breaking card that just ruins...
Or it's like, this is overpowered. Oh, well, now it's underpowered.
Right.
You have to... there's a lot of careful... Basically, anytime you take suggestions, you can't. You gotta.
I actually do. No, I just remembered a big one with Magic that happened.
Oh yeah.
The Commander set, which is the style I usually play now. It's when you have 100 cards.
That's how I listen.
Yes, with your Commander. They made a new rule involving how the Commander, because if the Commander is killed or removed from the game, he can return to the command zone. You can resummon him because he's like a special. He's your commander of your army. But if he's bounced, which means if he goes to your hand or back in the deck, you can't get him. They made a new rule making it so if he does that, he can go back to the command zone, which has pissed off a lot of players, especially people who use the blue cards because that's most of their removal. Blue and white, but white has a lot of other removal. For a lot of people, this has sort of killed their decks and their fighting style, making a lot of some generals, in their opinion, overpowered already, or some that are worthless.
Well, of course, that's a good. It's possible to just ignore that rule, right?
It is. Yeah. But, tournament play, this has definitely brought up a lot. And it definitely has shown a shift in Magic of sort of, I want to say neutering is actually probably a good term.
Is that a new keyword?
No, not yet. The blue style, which has always been considered the strongest one. There's been a shift of taking away, its power and, making more focus on the combat, which has gotten some people angry, some people happy. Which then brings up a new idea. Fans of the old versus fans of the new.
Right, change versus not. That comes also with new editions of games. Like we know, what is it, Tigris and Euphrates that's coming out. And I know some people are just, they're worried what's Fantasy Flight going to do? They're going to ruin this game.
Alhambra has the American edition, and then that people will complain about that.
Anytime there's change, people can be scared. So that's a much wider reaching issue than just fan feedback even. But yeah, it's definitely. You definitely want to not listen to people too much. It's like anything, any creative endeavor, really. You got to take it into account, but at the end of the day, you need to know what's right for your game.
Well, I think that's what the nice thing when it comes to Smash Up and those. They weren't really, how do we change the game? It's like, here's some suggestions. Yeah.
That is a great thing, and that I think companies should always do.
I mean, you always want to foster discussion with your thing. You don't want to make it too... never listen to them.
But definitely, I could see some cases where if people are, if everybody made up some house rule and just all of them use it, maybe you put it into your rule book the next time you.
Actually, the Magic Gathering command. That's how that came around. It was a fan, and then it became official.
Right.
In fact, that's how a lot of different play styles with card games come to be. It usually is here's our main one. Then someone's I got a new version, and they're like, yeah, that's official now too.
I think another great solution is just make things optional. If you can, just release a digital addendum to the rules and say this is now part of it if you want. Unless it's something that requires new cards, obviously you can't do that. But
right,
that's a good stopgap.
The big issue with when it comes to this, the hardest part about in terms of optional rules is if something has a tournament play.
Sure.
Which is that's why we're seeing that I think the LCGs are getting a whole new remake. I'm assuming some rule tightening up as well. Magic does it constantly. I'm sure Yu-Gi-Oh! Does as well.
You got to decide what's the right thing to do.
Right, and it's definitely something you have to balance because, like I said, the bounce thing in Magic got a lot of people angry. You got to understand, With
the CCG, I feel there's usually at least an understanding when you get into it that this isn't going to be the same forever. It's only natural that powers are going to shift, balance is going to shift, because it has to. You can't release new cards every year without things changing.
Right. It's just that there's certain rules that have been around long enough that you don't expect them to change. You understand, the meta changes. That's a given. But I mean, the bouncing thing has been around since the beginning of Magic. Right. That kind of style. So for a lot of people who are used to that in their deck and. The commander style doesn't limit you to sets like the main, so you've collected these cards, you expect to be able to use them forever. A card that was pretty good is now worthless. So that's the issue there. But
yeah. Well, that's just very interesting. But I feel like we're getting
keep going.
We're straying. But I think we pretty much covered it. At the end of the day, it's just like we said. Just listen, but make sure you do the right thing. Test it. Don't listen blindly.
Right.
Unless you're taking our Smash Up suggestions, then listen blindly.
No. You should take all of them. Forget everyone else's suggestions. Just take those, including the Civil War and the Nazi one.
Any other game that you are like, oh man, they should have an expansion like that where they let fans decide what to do.
That would be bad. I can already imagine some really bad.
Well, what's like? Is there anything off the top of your head that you think would make sense for that? One, I'm just going to say we're not going to get into it. Legendary, obviously, that's a big one. Any deck?
Well, actually, just an interesting thing. It's not exactly fan feedback, but the idea of with Legendary, for example, people have made custom groups. Like someone has made a Transformer group they can print and play that fit in the Legendary, which is another interesting, which is a good thing actually.
Yeah.
Because you might not have the copyrights for them, but you might be able to maybe put here's an empty version, so you can actually take the card and put whatever you want.
Yeah.
And that way you can actually let's say you watch people group and you see that mechanic there. That's a really clever mechanic. You can use it. Mm-hmm. So that's actually a really good idea, sort of to foster the community to make their own stuff.
Yeah, I agree. That's definitely fans make your own stuff. It's bypass the system altogether.
Well, no, I think it's good for both.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Because the company can then see what oh, look, they're doing more attack-related things. Maybe we should focus on that. Or, oh, they really like the cooperative. I don't know.
Yeah, no, yeah. Well, totally. I'm with you. Maybe you out there watching at home have some fan suggestions for us as to which games should have fan feedback. Or tell us what your reactions were to the Cosmic Dominion expansion or this upcoming Smash Up one, what your ideas are, or if you have a fan suggestion for a whole different topic that you want us to discuss on our show. We would really like to hear it, please.
And of course, if there's any game you want us to play for a playback as well.
Anything at all.
We actually will listen to everything.
Yeah, we're very open
after this entire thing, we said, no, we're going to take it all.
Well, there's a bunch of ways you can comment on this video right here on YouTube or on our website, or you can send us an email. Our email address is rollforcrit@gmail.com.
And after you subscribe to this video, if you haven't already, you can also message us through Twitter @rollforcrit, and of course our personal Twitters.
And you can always check out our very own website, rollforcrit.com, where we sell all the Smash Up expansions and the Cosmic Encounter expansions and 5 Tribes and what have you, and Coup, the traditional Coup.
And its expansion.
No microtransactions at all there.
No, just regular transactions.
regular transaction, macro transaction. And more videos like this, news, podcasts, etc., etc., etc. Otherwise, you got any final thoughts?
No, I think it's just we'll see what happens in the future with fans and companies.
We certainly will.
And I'm Wakila.
And I'm Jonathan Estes, and this has been the Roll for Crit podcast.